Had the first chance to meet with the team this morning. Thought it went well. Great to see guys and meet people. Just try to let them know what I'm about, what my expectations are, what they can expect of me, and thought that went really well. Look, I got to earn their trust. There's no doubt about that. I'm not trying to diminish how important that is. That's going to take time. That's not going to happen in one meeting. So, but I felt like it went well. Looking forward at my expectations for them. Solid week of practice. Let's get after it. I thought the walkthrough was really crisp on both sides, and that's kind of where we sit. Trying to think of anything else I need to touch on. Parks Frazier will be the play caller. Just put that out there. I think it was leaked about 10 minutes after I had the conversation. So you guys are good. Appreciate that. The Rooney Rule, I'll be honest with you, it's an important rule. I do not diminish it 1 second, right? I believe and understand fully why it is as important as it is, right? I don't minimize. This is important. My role here is for 8 games. When this is over, they will do an exhaustive search and pick whoever their best candidate is to be the head coach of the Colts. If I'm considered, I'd be honored. I have no idea where this thing is going to go, not even a little bit. And I'm not, but I can assure you that's going to be handled. That from the organization's perspective, from my perspective as a man, like I'm good. And here's the deal. Everybody talks about I'm completely comfortable in who I am as a man, bro. I know I can lead men. I know the game of football, and I'm passionate about it. I have no fear about, are you as qualified as somebody else? Bro, I spent 14 years in a locker room. I went to the playoffs 12 times. I got 5 dudes in the Hall of Fame that I play with. You don't think I've seen greatness? You don't think I've seen how people prepare, how they coach, how they GM, how they work? Won Super Bowls, been to 2. Like, here's the deal, man. None of us are promised a good job. I may be terrible at this. And after 8 games, I'll say, God bless you. I am no good. I may be really good at it. I got no idea. But I dang sure ain't going to back down. I can tell you that.
Hey, Jim, it's like I said last week, I'm going to say it again this week. I always tell young journalists, because there are many in our business who have, unfortunately, made things up. The Stephen Glasses of the world, Jason Blair, they made it up. They were journalists who were charged with telling a real-life story, and instead of telling the real-life story, they made up something, some imaginative, creative story. And you don't have to do it. First of all, you lack integrity and character if you do that. But also, you're spending too much energy on things you don't have to spend too much energy on, because real life is always more interesting. You just go to real life and talk to real life people, and you have your story unfolding for you right there. I've talked about this for a couple days straight. I need you, Jim Trotter, Hall of Fame voter. I need your perspective. I would love to hear what you have to say about all things Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, man, where do we begin? First of all, let me say this, full disclosure. I've known Jeff for years. We've golfed together. We have broken bread together. I think he's one of the finest men I know. He's principled. He's passionate. And if I were ever going to be in a battle, he's somebody I would want to have my back. So having gotten all of that out of the way, I hope Jeff has success from a personal standpoint from our relationship. Now, setting that aside, this whole thing is a farce. It is a joke. But let's go beyond. We always hear about meritocracy and you've got to earn it. You've got to earn it. Jeff hasn't earned it. That's number one. We can agree on that. But I want to go to a larger point for me, take this in another direction. How many times have you had, as we talk about racial equality and whatnot, how many times have you had white people say to me, what can I do? How can I help? And so when we talk about advocacy, in this situation, I have to say, disappointingly, that Jeff is not an advocate. Because for me, this is the way I view it. It's easy to say you support something when it doesn't impact you, right? But the minute that it impacts you, What are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice? And in this case, Jeff could have said to Jim Irsay, you know what? I'm not the most qualified man for this. And there are others who are more qualified. They may be white, they may be black, whatever, but there are people who are more qualified than me. To me, that would be an advocate, because we as blacks don't get the opportunity that he just got. Now, you can say to me, I'm living in a fantasy world. I'm being naive here. Who would ever turn down an opportunity like this, right? I'm going to give you a name. Josh McCown. A couple of years ago, the Houston Texans, Jack Easterby and Cal McNair had a
judges. I don't. That's a judgment call. I don't know if he turned it down. I'm not sure he turned it down.
Let me take the story one step further. I'm not saying he turned it down. Let's go with this. So when his name surfaces as being interested in that job, I texted Josh because I was going to be very critical of it. And I said, I just want you to know ahead of time what I'm thinking. Can we have a conversation about it? And Josh and I had like a 45-minute conversation. And in that conversation, what he said to me in part was, I said to them, I'm not the most qualified for this job, that there are coaches you should be talking to, one of whom was Pep Hamilton, who happens to be black. He is more qualified than I am for this job, and he is the type that you should be talking to. So what I would like to know from Jeff Saturday is that, did he say that same thing to Jim Irsay, that there are others who are more qualified? Here are names of some of them. Some may happen to be diverse candidates. And in that case, what did the Texans do? They set aside Josh McCown, and they ended up going out and they hired David Culley, right? Fired him after 1 year, but we know how that goes. So what I'm saying to you, true advocates to me are people who are willing to make personal sacrifices. And Lorenzo Neal used to always say this to me during a football season. He would say, it's easy to be a soldier when there's no war. Well, in this case, it's easy to be an advocate when it does not impact you. I just wish Jeff would have said, you know what, Jim Irsay, as much as I would love the opportunity, I'm not the most qualified for this.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really interesting. That's interesting. So my first thought is exactly, you read my mind and read the mind of a lot of people listening to us on Sirius XM Channel 85, watching on Peacock TV, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. You read our minds, and that is, nobody would turn that down. If you're presented with that opportunity, you have to go for it. Okay. All right. Next up, maybe some people would turn it down, or maybe you think of, where can I make the biggest impact to get my message across? In other words, Jeff Saturday, Jim Trotter, could have done exactly what you said. Could have turned it down, had a private conversation with Jim Irsay and said, nope, I'm not the man for the job, hire somebody else. Why don't you give it to John Fox? Why don't you give it to Gus Bradley? Or somebody else on the staff, because I'm not the guy. Or he could be here on this platform. He's speaking with the media constantly. And how powerful would it be if he is now, and the eyes are on him, and he gets to make that statement publicly, if he were to do that? So is it better to turn it down and give somebody else these 8 games, and we never know? We never have that powerful moment of somebody saying, hey, look, I was presented an opportunity and I turned it down. I guess he's got the ESPN. He had the ESPN platform. He could have done that.
Absolutely.
But I think if he does it here, if he does turn it down, that's pretty powerful as well. I don't know. What's the better way of doing it? Just to give up the job? I mean, I think my scenario maybe is more realistic.
So are you saying he takes the interim job and then goes public and says, you know what, I'm not the right guy? I'm trying to understand, be clear on this.
After doing it, after being in that opportunity, after doing it, because I just feel like, Jim.
Oh, no. Oh, wait, hang on now.
Nobody's going to do that.
Well, if he takes the interim job, and then he is offered the permanent job, in theory, you would think that means that they succeeded, or he did a good job in those 8 games that he was coaching the team, right? Is that what you're saying?
Nope.
What are you saying?
Nope. You know what I'm saying? This is what I think. A couple things. One, I think Josh McCown, even after your 45-minute conversation, if the McNairs had offered him the job as Irsay did to Saturday, you're the guy for the job. Not that we're going through it. Hey, here the job is yours. If he had been given the job, take it or leave it, here's a contract, sign that. I think he would have taken it. What we heard the name Josh McCown, just like you did, you heard the name, and then you responded to it. It was not a done deal at that point. It had leaked out that they were looking at Josh McCown. And I think a lot of public pressure made them go in a different direction. That's when they brought in David Culley for a year as a placeholder. He got a raw deal. And then they were looking in another direction again. I think they wanted to go back to McCown. More pressure. Brian Flores adds them to the lawsuit. They bring in Lovie Smith.
Right.
Okay, but if McCown had been in the position of Saturday, if he had been in Saturday's position,
I got to push back a little. I think if Josh McCown,
come on. That's why we're here. I know. That's why we're here.
I believe that if Josh McCown truly wanted that job 2 years ago, truly wanted it, I believe he would have had it.
In 2020,
I believe he would have had it. Yes, I believe he would have had it.
In 2020, the so-called
remember who was running the club. Remember who was running the club then?
Yeah,
Jack Easterby, who had the ear of Cal McNair, and they were making some really bizarre decisions. Just the fact that they would bring up Josh McCown as a legitimate candidate at that time for that job tells you they weren't doing things in a traditional manner with that organization. I believe I have nothing to confirm it or to say that I'm actually that it is 100% factual, but I believe that if Josh McCown had truly been offered that job and truly wanted it, I should say, in terms of understanding what that was going to mean, in terms of how he was going to be perceived among the men that he was going to be working with, that the job would have been his. I believe that. I believe the Texans were that dysfunctional at that time.
Here's the other point. When you said, hey, I'm in my scenario with Saturday, taking the job at an interim basis and giving up at the end of the year, in my scenario, he's done a good job. No, I think it's just the opposite. You know what I think, Jim? I hope I'm wrong on this. I don't think I am.
Tell me.
I think if Jeff Saturday goes 1-7, the job's his. I think the job's his. Mm-hmm. I think Jim Irsay wants to give him the job, and you can tell from the press conference where he says 8 games, hopefully more. Hey, I'm glad he doesn't have experience. All that stuff. Jim Irsay is going to give him the job. Because let me ask you this: when has Jim Irsay brought in somebody and not given them more than a year? This is what he does.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's no question he wants to give him that job permanently, without question.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, Jim. They didn't think it through. Or maybe they did. But I'm going to say they didn't think it through. That, hey, I'm going to go out and get Saturday. I'm going to get Jeff Saturday the job, and we can start. We can get a head start on the 2023 season. And I really don't believe, I'm not calling the man evil. Let me just make it clear. I'm not saying that this was some sinister plan from Jim Irsay, but they weren't thinking about the Rooney Rule and, hey, you can't do this and you got to go through the exhaustive search. So he's kind of standing there when he's asked a question at the press conference. He's a little flat-footed. Then he starts talking about his record. Hey, wait a minute now. I'm the last guy you should be questioned about the Rooney Rule. I had Tony Dungy and I had Jim Caldwell, and this organization's been fair. We've had black coordinators on and on. I don't think he thought it all the way through. This is the plan. The plan is to have Jeff Saturday be the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts for several seasons. I think it would be powerful because I think Saturday might go 1-7 or 2-6. It'd be powerful after that happens to step up and say, you know what? I was given an opportunity, and frankly, I didn't deserve it. I'm not qualified
No,
for it.
that'll never happen. Will never happen. Will never happen. Will never
Well, I
happen.
guess both of them would. Both of them would never happen. Nobody's going to turn down the job.
Yeah, no, the only way that Jeff, if I know Jeff Saturday as I think I do, the only way he would ever walk away from it is if he felt truly that he couldn't make a difference with the men he was coaching. I believe that. I believe that in my heart.
I think he'll make a difference. I like the way you started off by talking about him. And I said this a bit yesterday, that I think a lot of people are struggling with the conversation on this and really pointing out the deep absurdity of it because of the respect they have, rightfully so, for Jeff Saturday. He's a guy, to know him is to love him. He has really got an easy way with people. He's relatable. You can connect with Jeff Saturday very quickly, and you know that. And so I think he'll make an impact from just from a human being. There's some human beings you come across in your life, no matter what industry you're in, just their pure humanity and their decency has an effect on you. Whether they're good in the roles that they're placed in is a different story. So I think he'll have an impact from the decency and integrity that is just flows through him. But
I'm trying to understand what is that impact you're talking of? What impact is he going to have? Frank Reich was a decent man. He was well liked.
Right.
He's respected as a human being. So what's the difference here?
But Jim, I'm not dismissing that. That has nothing to do with, well, I shouldn't say it had nothing to do. They're judged by wins and losses. So the public, what I'm saying to you is the public doesn't care. You think I'm mounting a defense. I'm not. The public doesn't care that Frank Reich is a decent man and an ordained minister.
Correct.
What they care about is he won one playoff game in 5 years.
Correct.
I'm saying inside the locker room, I think the players do care that both things can be true. I care about you as a man. You didn't necessarily take us where we wanted to go, but I'll never forget the relationship that we had. That's an impact. It's not all football. I mean, there's real life involved too. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think Jeff Saturday will, relationally, there will be an impact. The bottom line will not be affected. I think they're going to win a couple of games. Maybe they'll win on Sunday against the Raiders because they stink too. But
I think you're being kind when you say a couple of games. I don't know that they'll win a couple of games. Here's the other thing that you got to take into account too. It's not just that Jeff was hired, but now in the promotion of the play caller, right? You take a 30-year-old guy who has never called plays before in his life. You've already fired Marcus Brady and whatnot. And so the first major decision you make as the interim head coach is that you're going to promote this guy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, Michael, there are people already internally looking at that situation sideways. So again,
of course they are. That's why
Jeff Saturday is one of the finest people I know, and he will have an impact relationally. But in terms of football, as you say, it is a bottom line business, and they are not going to win with him there. And the other thing, look, Jeff is right. He knows more football than he's forgotten more football than I will ever know. So he can step in and know the X's and O's and how to relate to guys and all of that. But you know this because we've had this conversation. Being a successful head coach in the NFL involves so much more than that. So much more. We see guys now who get in there, first year guys, whatever, and even guys who let's say on their second try. Game management, it's easy to sit back on our chair and say what we would do in certain situations and act like we have all the answers. It's another thing when you're in that fire and that play clock is winding down or you got all these different things coming at you. And again, you've had no training as a coach, not as a player, but as a coach in those situations. I just don't see where this can be successful. I really don't.
That's why I love that line from my friend Terry Francona, Tito, manager of the Cleveland Guardians. He always used to say, because he spent some time, a couple different stints away from the dugout. He said, the farther you get away from the game, the easier it looks.
Absolutely.
He said, sometimes that's even in the stadium. He said, he used to work in Cleveland's front office back in the day. He went from the dugout to the press box or the suites. He said, even you're in the same stadium and you played the game and you managed the game, it looks easier the farther you are away from the field. So there's a long way. I don't know how many miles specifically there are between Bristol, Connecticut and Indianapolis, but it's longer than you think. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.